In 2022, Western authorities confiscated more than $2 billion worth of superyachts linked to Russian oligarchs. Armed officers boarded vessels in overseas ports, crews were detained, and one yacht was immobilized during a refit in a German shipyard. Yacht owners around the world watched closely and asked themselves one question: not, is this lawful? But could this happen to mine? Because beyond a certain scale, a superyacht is no longer just a luxury boat. It becomes a floating sovereign asset operating across international waters. And when governments began taking control of them, the industry realized how narrow the gap truly is between extreme luxury and major liability. Today, we're breaking down that world, from the smallest yachts that officially qualify as superyachts to the enormous floating compounds that function more like private maritime states. And yes, before anyone says it, some people call them mega yachts. Others argue endlessly about the size categories. That's not the focus here. This is about how these vessels function, not what label they carry. Level 1. The Gateway, 24 to 30 meters. This is where the superyacht category officially begins, and where many owners first discover how expensive the lifestyle really is. A new yacht in this range costs anywhere from $5 million to $15 million depending on the shipyard and customization. Brands like Sunseeker, Princess, and Azimut dominate this segment. Yearly operating expenses typically fall between $500,000 and $1 million. Crew size usually ranges from 4 to 6 people. Captain, engineer, deckhands, and stewardesses. Before the yacht even leaves the dock, the owner is already covering salaries, fuel, insurance, marina fees, and non-stop maintenance on an asset that depreciates rapidly. What surprises most first-time buyers is that the purchase price is only part of the story. Over 10 years, operating costs can equal the original purchase price. A yacht bought for $10 million may ultimately cost another $10 million to maintain and run. And the financial curve only steepens from there. Typical buyers at this level are often newly wealthy entrepreneurs, someone who had a decent business exit, not a billionaire scale one. After years of watching yacht content online, he finally buys one, only to realize later he barely uses it. After an entire year, many owners discover they spent millions for a vessel used only a handful of days. That's why marinas are full of Level 1 yachts listed for sale. At this level, the famous saying about the 2 happiest days of yacht ownership becomes less of a joke and more of an accounting reality. For most people interested in this world, chartering first is the smarter decision. Spending $50,000 to $80,000 for a week aboard a yacht in Croatia suddenly feels reasonable compared to a decade of ownership costs. Level 2. 30 to 50 meters. This is where yacht ownership starts to feel intentional instead of aspirational. New builds range from $15 million to $40 million. Builders like Benetti, Hesen, San Lorenzo, and smaller Fedship models dominate here. Crew expands to around 7 to 12 people, while annual operating costs rise to $1.5 to $3 million. At this point, the yacht stops feeling like a large boat and starts becoming a floating lifestyle platform. You now get proper tender garages, water toys, jacuzzis, multiple guest suites with private bathrooms, a professional galley run by a chef, and beach clubs that open directly onto the sea. The difference between Level 1 and Level 2 is the difference between entertaining guests for an afternoon and hosting people comfortably for days at a time. At this size, privacy becomes part of the experience. Guests have room to disappear, relax, and live aboard without feeling confined. This is usually where family office owners and retired CEOs enter the market. The yacht often becomes part of the family's annual routine rather than simply a luxury purchase. Charter income also starts to matter. A 40-meter yacht can earn $150,000 to $300,000 per week during Mediterranean high season, helping offset operating costs. The economics may not be perfect, but they become sustainable enough that owners keep the yacht rather than quickly selling it. Level 3. 50 to 70 meters. At this level, the yacht itself becomes the destination. Prices range from $40 million to over $100 million. Builders include Fedship, Lursen, Oshenko, and Hummels. Crew numbers grow to 14 to 22, with yearly operating costs between $3 million and $7 million. The interiors are no longer designed like boat interiors. They resemble luxury architecture. Owners now have full-beam master suites, formal dining rooms, private cinemas, expansive beach clubs, and outdoor decks tailored for completely different experiences. Everything aboard is designed around comfort, privacy, and effortless movement. The biggest change at this tier is psychological. You no longer travel somewhere. Instead, the world adjusts around your arrival. The yacht is fully prepared before you board. The crew already knows your preferences. The meals are planned, the wine is stocked, and every detail has been handled in advance. Unlike even the best luxury resorts, nothing is shared. No shared pools. No shared beaches. No waiting.
No crowds.
Once people experience that level of exclusivity, traditional luxury hotels often lose their appeal. Owners at this level are usually ultra-wealthy industrialists or business figures whose names the public may not recognize, even if they use their products every day. What they value most isn't necessarily the luxury itself, it's the ability to disappear into total privacy. Level 4, 70 to 90 meters. At this stage, ownership resembles running a private corporation designed around one person's lifestyle. New builds cost roughly $100 to $200 million. Crew size rises to 25 to 35 people, while annual operating expenses range from $8 million to $15 million. Helicopter pads become standard. Shore-based operations teams manage logistics, customs, schedules, provisioning, and travel arrangements across multiple countries. The yacht now operates with departments, reporting structures, and management systems similar to a business organization. The owner experiences none of the complexity directly. Everything is seamless. Cars appear when needed. Reservations are arranged in advance. Private access is coordinated quietly behind the scenes. Nothing feels improvised because an entire organization exists to anticipate the owner's needs before they're spoken. The people commissioning yachts at this level are often quieter billionaires, owners who stepped away from active business years ago and now value privacy above everything else. By now, the yacht is no longer just transportation or a luxury. It becomes the one place fully controlled by the owner. Level 5, 90 to 120 meters. At this scale, the yacht transforms into a movable private estate. Construction costs range from $200 million to $400 million. Crew size reaches 40 to 55 people, while yearly expenses climb to $15 to $25 million. Every build is completely custom. These vessels contain swimming pools, spas, gyms, wine cellars, multiple kitchens, luxury staff quarters, and sometimes submarines housed within dedicated launch bays. Some support vessels stored inside the yacht are large enough to function as standalone yachts themselves. Engineering at this level becomes extraordinary, sometimes bordering on excessive, but entirely achievable because the owners can afford it. Most marinas cannot physically accommodate vessels this large, so they anchor offshore while guests arrive by helicopter or tender. The yacht effectively becomes its own floating world. Meetings happen aboard. Entertainment happens aboard. Social life revolves around the vessel itself. The yacht is no longer a means of visiting places. The yacht becomes the place. Level 6, 120 to 160 meters. This is where superyachts begin functioning less like private vessels and more like sovereign infrastructure. Fewer than 30 yachts of this size exist worldwide. Construction costs range from $400 million to $700 million. Crew counts reach 55 to 80 people, and annual operating costs can exceed $50 million. These vessels carry systems normally found on military or commercial ships. Large-scale desalination systems, independent power generation, medical facilities, long-term storage for provisions, advanced security systems. Some even include armored sections, submarines, and surveillance technology. The famous yachts seized during sanctions in 2022 belonged largely to this tier. At this level, ownership structures become extremely layered and private. The vessel may technically belong to trusts, holding companies, or offshore entities spread across multiple jurisdictions. The goal is no longer just luxury. The goal is autonomy. This is where yachting stops being recreation and starts becoming an alternate way of existing outside normal systems. Level 7. 160 meters and above. This category barely exists. Fewer than 10 private yachts of this scale have ever been built. The 180-meter Azam, one of the most famous examples, reportedly cost around $600 million and was engineered not only for luxury, but also for extreme speed. Another example, REV Ocean, combines private ownership with scientific research capabilities, carrying laboratories, research facilities, and deep-sea exploration equipment. At this scale, the yacht is no longer just a personal possession. It becomes a private institution. Crew sizes exceed 100 people. Shore-based support operations function year-round whether the owner is aboard or not. These vessels are never publicly displayed or sold through normal brokerage channels. Each one is a custom-built world requiring years to design and construct. The owner is not purchasing transportation. The owner is creating an environment completely detached from ordinary constraints. The superyacht industry began as a luxury hobby for people who already owned everything else. Over time, it evolved into something much larger. At the lowest level, it's an expensive boat. At the highest level, it's a floating sovereign world. Between the entry-level yacht and the Billionaire's floating compounds, the real product stopped being the vessel itself. What owners are truly buying is freedom from limitation, freedom from schedules, crowds, rules, and fixed locations. One owner buys that freedom for a few weekends each year. Another buys it permanently,